All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into something that, let's face it, gives a lot of test takers a massive headache: IELTS Academic Writing Task 1. We're going to completely demystify exactly how top-tier Band 7 to 9 students actually approach data. It's definitely not about just staring at a chart and writing down numbers. There is actually a highly specific, reverse-engineered mindset that high scorers use to identify trends. And by the end of this explainer, you're going to have that exact formula in your toolkit.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our clear roadmap for today. We'll be looking at 1. The high scorer's secret. 2. Spotting the big picture. 3. Selecting the right data. 4. The language of trends. And 5. Avoiding common traps. Let's get right to it.
Kicking things off with Section 1, the high scorer's secret.
To uncover the secret, we actually have to start by shattering a very common, pretty anxiety-inducing myth. I want to pose this critical question directly to you. Do complex words guarantee a high score? Because, so many students walk into that exam room thinking that throwing in these massive, incredibly complicated vocabulary words is the absolute golden ticket to a Band 8 or 9. They spend hours literally memorizing a thesaurus. But, as you'll see, the data from thousands of high-scoring responses tells a completely different story.
Well, here is the big truth, straight from our source at IELTS Advantage. Accuracy beats complexity. It really is that simple. A Band 7 response that uses simple, totally accurate language will always, every single time, outscore a response that tries to use highly complex vocabulary but gets it wrong. If you force a clunky, advanced word into a sentence where it just doesn't belong, it completely disrupts the flow and actually lowers your score.
So what do high-scoring students actually do? They prioritize just 3 things: task completion, clear structure, and absolute accuracy. They use language they understand perfectly. They organize their ideas in a highly logical way, and they ensure they directly address exactly what the task asks for, without exception. It's really about showing you can communicate effectively, not just showing off words you barely know how to use.
Moving right along to Section 2, spotting the big picture.
Okay, now that we know accuracy is the priority, how do we actually apply it? Well, it begins with a crucial 5-minute analysis phase, where top students hunt for the macro trend before they even write a single word. It breaks down into 3 specific steps. First, the initial assessment, taking a minute or 2 just to identify the graph type and overall direction of the data. Second, the detailed analysis, where you actively hunt for the highest and lowest points and where lines might cross. And finally, planning structure, where you select your main features to build your overview. Guys, if you skip this 5-minute phase, you're going to end up completely lost in the data.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing that detailed analysis in practice. Look at this graph showing serious crimes in London. A lower band student, they just see a bunch of zigzagging lines and numbers. But a high scorer instantly hunts for the narrative. Notice how the green line, armed robbery, starts out as the highest, but then absolutely plummets after 2004. They spot the intersection right there where the red line, assaults, surpasses robbery in 2006 to become the dominant crime. They are just looking at data points. They're spotting the dramatic shifts.
And identifying that big picture, that instantly translates into the absolute most crucial part of your essay, the overview paragraph. According to our sources, this paragraph is the determining factor for pushing a score from a Band 6 to a Band 7 or higher. And there is a clear formula: overall trend plus the most significant feature plus a notable pattern. You do not put specific numbers in the overview. You just paint the broad, accurate picture of what the chart represents.
Which brings us to Section 3. Selecting the right data.
Once you have your overview nailed down, you have to prove it in your body paragraphs. But here is a huge mistake: trying to describe every single number on the page. You have to filter. High scorers do this through strategic data grouping. They don't just write about line A, then line B, then line C. Instead, they look for logical groupings. They group the high performers together. They group the growth stories, the things that surged over time. They identify the volatile patterns that bounced all over the place and group the stable performers that barely changed at all. You're looking for similarities and contrasts to really weave the data together.
Describing these trends effectively is really all about visualizing the degree, the speed, and the direction of change. Top scorers zero in on exactly 8 to 10 significant data points across the entire chart. That's it. They look for starting and ending values, peaks, troughs, and periods of steepest change. Everything else, all those minor year-to-year fluctuations, they intentionally ignore them. You are curating the data here, not just acting like a human calculator. Okay, let's look at Section 4, the language of trends.
We know what data to pick. So now let's look at the linguistic arsenal you need to describe it. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive difference between a Band 6 and a Band 7+. On the left, you've got basic, pretty repetitive vocabulary. Went up slowly, fell quickly, decreased, then increased. I mean, it's accurate, but it's totally monotonous. But on the right, advanced, precise trend language. Climbed steadily, plummeted, experienced considerable volatility. Upgrading those verbs instantly elevates your lexical resource score, for sure.
To help out, here is a neat little cheat sheet derived from our sources. If you want to break free from writing the word increase 10 times in one essay, check these out. For upward trends, surged, soared, demonstrated upward momentum. Downward trends, plummeted, nosedived, diminished gradually. And for fluctuations, exhibited unstable patterns or erratic behavior. Learning these collocations, these word partnerships, is literally a game changer compared to just memorizing single dictionary words. But reaching that band 8 or 9 goes beyond just swapping out your verbs. Top scorers use advanced analytical phrases to really show the relationships between the data. They use proportional language and math. Phrases like, this represented a threefold increase, or comparative expressions like, their developmental paths diverged significantly, or the ratio narrowed significantly. This proves to the examiner that you aren't just blindly reading a graph. You're logically interpreting how these elements actually interact.
And finally, Section 5, avoiding common traps.
We've built up an awesome toolkit, right? But honestly, what you intentionally leave out of your essay is just as important. Pay close attention to these common band score killers. Number 1, never ever include personal opinions or speculate. If a graph shows crime dropping, do not write because police funding increased unless the graph explicitly says so. No way, don't guess the reasons. Number 2, like we said, do not list every single data point. Number 3, avoid memorizing those fill-in-the-blank templates. And number 4, never copy exact phrases from the prompt.
So the crucial point here, straight from IELTS Advantage, is this. Copying exact phrases or relying on memorized templates creates awkward, totally robotic writing. And examiners, they are highly trained to spot this immediately. If they sense your response is memorized, you could severely penalize your entire writing score. You really have to adapt the language and use your own words to describe the unique data in front of you.
Look, if you take just one overarching mantra away from this explainer today, let it be this. Tell the story of the data, don't just list the numbers. Step back, spend those crucial 5 minutes finding the macro trends, group your data logically, and use precise, accurate language to explain how those numbers moved and interacted.
The tools are absolutely in your hands now. The formula is right there. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Are you ready to stop blindly counting numbers and start uncovering the narrative hidden in your very next practice chart? I definitely hope so. Apply this reverse-engineered mindset, prioritize accuracy over complexity, and watch your analysis completely transform. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer today, guys. Get out there and start practicing.